All right, students, we're going to start a little bit of our discussion on short story, starting with plot. The thing about plot that's kind of amazing is you really can see this in almost every story, movie, book, and it follows this similar pattern. And there's some key terms that you need to know, and that will help you better understand how stories are put together. So the first term here, when a story first begins, we call it the exposition. And so that is that little part at the very beginning, and it shows the character kind of in their normal, ordinary life. It introduces them, it introduces the main setting, and that lasts for just a short period, and things look all fine and dandy, and then something happens. We call that something that happens an inciting incident, and that would be on this graph right here. That would be this little point where it starts to now climb. Okay, and the inciting incident is usually something that suddenly changes from just the simple ordinary life into something much more serious. So a conflict is introduced, and now our characters in the story have something to solve. And then, of course, conflict is the whole point of a story. You know, we all want to live pretty worry-free lives, but to watch or read a story, that would be boring if there was no conflict, if there was no problem to solve. And so conflict is really important in story, and it brings interest into the stories that we read and watch. Related to conflict is this rising action. So things get more and more serious as time goes on, and that climbs up until we hit the highest point of interest, which is climax. And the climax is just that. It is the peak of tension. It is the peak of interest for a story, and it has everybody hanging on the edge of their seat. This is where everything is coming together. And then immediately when that happens, it begins to now resolve, what we call falling action. So the climax is over, things start to tie up, and that's why this is a much steeper line. It's a much shorter part of the story, usually maybe the last chapter where everything gets tied up in a novel. The denouement is the resolution or conclusion, where we come to an end and everything is solved and the questions are answered and the main conflict is settled. That's the main points of plot. There's much more to know and learn about that, but those are the basics, and that's what you need to know for this unit.